Hello, I'm Doug, and welcome to the Krewe of Japan podcast, a weekly podcast where we take you on audio journeys through Japanese culture.
This time on Krewe of Japan podcast.
Welcome back to our podcast. I hope you packed your notebooks and sharpened those pencils because today we are heading back to school. But not just to any school. We're talking Japanese language school. And not just any Japanese language school. We're going straight into the heart of Tokyo with someone who knows the drill better than anyone. Today's episode is all about the ins and outs of studying Japanese in a dedicated language school setting. What's it really like to immerse yourself in the language while living in Japan? Is it better than taking Japanese in a high school classroom or university lecture hall back home? Or even in a lecture hall in Japan? We've got an amazing guest joining us, Langston Hill, administrator at a Tokyo-based language school, and Japanese language education content creator extraordinaire. Seriously, if you're on Japanese Learning Instagram, chances are that you've already seen one of his videos or heard about his textbook series. During today's conversation, we'll dig into the benefits of language schools and how they're tailored for real-world use.
They're really focused on intense studies with the Japanese school language. You're very close with the language. You're interacting with it every single day. It's all taught in Japanese.
Compare them to traditional academic settings.
So university, you would usually have 2 classes, maybe even 3 classes a week. And those classes would be an hour, maybe 50 minutes to an hour. Japanese language schools, since you're going there to study the language, at my school and most schools, I believe it's Monday through Friday. So you have classes every day, and classes last around 3 hours every single day.
Explore Langston's journey as a content creator, plus how he's helping students crush their language goals through his textbook series.
One of the things my book offers is, right off the bat, it focuses on casual language. I don't do mas des. I start off with da, janai, janakatta, just very, very, very casual speech. And it builds off of that because I figured a lot of the Japanese language learners out there, they're either in maybe middle school, high school, and college. And a lot of the Japanese they'll be interacting with is casual Japanese.
And so much more. So whether you're a total beginner dreaming of your first trip to Japan, a JLPT warrior, or just here for the vibes, you're in the right place. So let's head into the classroom, but not just any classroom, a Japanese language school classroom. Let's go. Are you new to the Krewe? Yokoso. We hope you enjoy this episode. If you like what you hear today, then you'll really love our back catalog of episodes from earlier this season and previous seasons. We've had some incredible guests, like JLPT N1 certified Walden Perry on Japanese self-study strategies, influencer Tyson of Nihongo Hongo teaching us the Kansai dialect, YouTuber Loretta of Keimushi-chan helping prep for the JLPT, and so much more. After you finish up this episode, hit that subscribe button or follow or whatever it is, and get notified when new episodes come out. Then while you wait for the new episode to drop, play catch up with the Krewe. But before you do any of that, let's dive into today's episode. All right, so we are here with a language learning episode, some of our favorite topics to talk about.
It truly is.
Yeah, I know. We love travel. We love everything about Japan and Japanese culture,
I know,
but
right?
language is always a nice little sweet spot for us. So I have Jen. Hi, Jen.
Hey.
And then we have a special guest today, Langston Hill, aka Langy.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. And he's going to talk to us about Japanese language schools in Japan. Before we get into that, Langston, what we have on this podcast, we're a New Orleans-based podcast, we ask our guests every time if they have a connection to New Orleans, or if they've been. If you haven't or you don't really have a connection, no big deal. But if you do, what is that connection? But if you don't, what is the first thing you think of when you hear New Orleans?
Right. I unfortunately don't have a connection to New Orleans, but I mean, the first thing I think of is jazz. I guess jazz, Mardi
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 Gras.
Gras, yeah.
Mardi Gras
which is
scene.
right around now.
Scene. Oh,
Yeah.
really? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I didn't know
yeah.
that. Okay.
It's kicking off in 2 Tuesdays.
Oh wow,
Well, not
nice.
kicking off. It is 2 Tuesdays from now.
Yeah, I've heard it's like a lot of fun with everybody's out in the streets and partying and stuff.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
exactly like that.
Oh God, I would love to go. So I mean, yeah, that's basically it. Jazz and Mardi Gras.
I think I saw on one of your Instagram stories that you were quite a musician. So I feel like the
Yes.
music thing's right up your alley.
Yes, I play classical violin and I used to play in string quartets and orchestras as well. Yeah, it would have been nice to be able to go to New Orleans and, I don't know, maybe do something over there.
Well, you got some time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I still have time.
You got plenty of time.
I-
And whenever you make it over here, let us know.
yeah, of course.
Well, to bring this to our main topic, we just want to know, what is your Japan journey? Did language learning drive you to Japan, or did an interest in Japan push you into learning the language?
Right. Okay. So it was actually the former. Language learning brought me to Japan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and a lot of people assume, I guess, I studied Japanese because I'm interested in anime or
Of
the
course.
classics and
Yeah.
whatnot. And that it did have an influence on as to why I started studying Japanese. But I think my Japan journey really began with the language and through the language. I started studying by myself and it really just grew and snowballed from there. And lo and behold, I found myself obsessed with not only Japanese, but Japanese culture and just like the beauty of Japan as well. Yeah, it definitely grew into this whole, I don't know, new personality, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, my journey started through the language and it just kind of snowballed and grew from there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Totally
you.
understand that.
Yeah.
And you're currently working as an administrator for a language school in Tokyo specifically.
Yes.
How did you get involved in Japanese language education as a whole?
Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I was teaching English in 2022 and I found myself without a job in like February of 2022. And most jobs here, they start in April.
Right.
And I was freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, I like basically don't have a job. I need to find a new job. I started looking, like applying frantically to like, I don't know, maybe like 50, 60 jobs, which is like on the good side. I've heard people of applying to like 100 to 200 jobs. And like, yeah.
That's intense.
Yeah. And so I was out there just applying and applying. I did hotels. I did more English teaching. But then I was looking on this site called Indeed, and I found it said in Japanese, like Japanese language school, no experience needed, and then like office administrator, all in Japanese, of course. And then I read the post and it mentioned you can work with study abroad students and you can like help their life and whatnot. And that's the part that kind of got me interested in it. And yeah, I applied. I had an interview with them the following week and I got accepted. I was very, very fortunate to get accepted, and that's where I began working with the Japanese language in general.
So when did you move to Japan?
I moved to Japan in 2019,
Okay.
March.
And then you were teaching English over that time period?
Oh, it's been a wild ride. I started as little side story. I started as a ALT in the cute little small prefecture, Fukushima Prefecture.
Oh, me too.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh.
Fukushima, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was in Iwaki.
Iwaki, that's nice. Oh my god. I was
I didn't
in
know that. All the times we talked, this never came up.
That's crazy. Oh my god. I love Iwaki. I was in Aizu, Wakamatsu.
Oh man, Aizu's
Yeah,
amazing.
beautiful, beautiful place over there. Wow, that's crazy.
Small world.
Yeah, and so I taught English for 1 year in Aizu Wakamatsu City, and then I moved on to Fukushima City, and I worked under the Fukushima prefectural government, marketing for the prefecture's sake, I guess, through Instagram and
Okay.
whatnot. I was promoting their sake, basically. That lasted for about 2 years, and then I moved to Oita Prefecture, and I taught English there for a year. And that's when I started looking for another job, and I moved to Tokyo to work at a Japanese language school.
Wow.
What a journey.
So,
It's been all
yeah,
over.
it's been
Tohoku
wild.
to you said Oita, right? In
Yeah,
Kyushu?
Oita. Yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
Dang.
it's been a lot.
then bringing it back to language learning and education, when people think of studying Japanese in Japan, I feel like the default people imagine is going through in a university setting as maybe a study abroad student, and they may not even be aware of like Japanese language schools even being an option to them. And I
Right.
think we've kind of talked about this a little bit before too.
Yeah.
So, what would you consider some of the biggest differences between learning Japanese at a dedicated language school and in that type of setting versus maybe a traditional university classroom setting?
So I love this question. So I was very fortunate to experience both sides. I went to university and I studied abroad and I studied Japanese here in Japan. And now I work at a Japanese language school. So I've been able to see both perspectives. And personally, I self studied Japanese. But now that I work at a Japanese language school, I'm so jealous because I see all of these students and they are improving their Japanese at the speed of light. It is insane. It is so, so fast. And so university, of course, you can do the 4-year course and pros and cons of university. I think a lot of the pros is that while you study the language, you also study a lot about the culture as well. And you read novels and whatnot. You kind of advance your Japanese more culturally as well. You get a more cultural insight to Japan through university. And that was fun. I really enjoyed that. And with a Japanese language school, it's not really so much about the culture, but much, 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 much more focused intensely on the language itself. And so you're actually only allowed to attend a Japanese language school for 2 years. That's like set by the government. Anything above 2 years, actually, you literally cannot do above 2 years. And so,
Really?
yeah,
Is that like visa requirements or something like that?
visa requirements, and it's just like a general rule that they
Okay.
have.
Huh. Did not know
Yeah, I just found that out like a couple of years ago too.
that.
And because of that 2 year time limit, they were really focused on intense studies with the Japanese language. You're very close with the language, you're interacting with it every single day. It's all taught in Japanese. And so I think that's a pro of Japanese language schools is time. You have a short amount of time, but since they're very focused on the language, you get to see yourself improve really fast at a Japanese language school. As with a university, you can improve like really fast, of course, but I think they take their time more since it's spread out between 4 years. So yeah, they're both a lot of fun and they both have their pros and cons. But personally, I would have studied through Japanese language school if I were to do it again.
So the language school, is it, I know I've heard like immersion, like intense immersion, boot camp type language schools, but then also, is it like just maybe a few hours a day? Is it daily? Is it a few times a week? Or is there just maybe different sets for different people?
Right. So yeah, that's another thing. So university, you would usually have 2 classes, maybe even 3 classes a week. And those classes would be an hour, maybe 50 minutes to an hour. Japanese language schools, since you're going there to study the language, at my school and most schools, I believe it's Monday through Friday. So you have classes every day and classes last around 3 hours every single day. So for example, you would have morning classes and they would start at, I don't know, 8:30 and they would end at like 11:30 or something like that. And once you're finished with classes, you have the whole day to chill or like do whatever you want. So yeah, most cases, not that intense like studying since it's 3 hours, but they really do pack a lot of material within those 3 hours.
I bet. Like, I know when I did study abroad, there was an option to do a 3 hour per day, every day of the week class for like intensive Japanese study.
Hmm.
I chose not to do that because I didn't want to be
Okay.
spending the entire time studying. This is when I was a lot less responsible and, more focused on enjoying the nightlife instead of enjoying the books. But, they had that option, but I feel like it's still, you're packing that in with a lot of other stuff. I was taking other courses that were
Ah,
Japanese business history or, philosophies of East Asia, things like that were
hmm,
not unique to like just Japanese language. They were English taught classes. They were taught in English at the university I was at. So I think that you get kind of overwhelmed with other stuff too that takes away from the time you could spend, right, on focusing
Yeah, I
on
agree with
study.
that totally.
hmm,
Because I remember I was taking 2 classes on my study abroad One was Japanese language and one was like a Japanese literature class. And yeah, it was hard to balance the two because they both
Mm,
needed attention. It was like, okay, which one am I going to give more attention to? And yeah, no,
yeah.
it's difficult if you're not like strictly focusing on the language, which I feel like you really do. Like if you are 100% like I want to know Japanese, I feel like you have to be 100% in. You can't just bullshit it in
Yeah.
that sense.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no, so, like literally you have to be like 100%.
You do.
You
You
have to spend all your
do.
energy in it. So,
And that actually
yeah.
brings me to a question. So, what type of students typically attend Japanese language schools? Like, does it cater to learners from one certain area of the world or more than another? And then, like, are there mostly beginners or do you see a good mix of levels come in?
A lot of the Japanese language schools, they cater towards, I would say, Central Asia. At our school, personally, we have a lot of Chinese, people from China, Vietnam, and Mongolia as well, which
Wow,
is interesting. Yeah.
that is interesting.
And then we, of course, have people from Europe, Russia, Uzbekistan as well. But we mainly cater towards Central Asia. And I've been thinking about why that is. I think really it has to do with these people that are coming from different countries. They really want to change their life because there's not many, unfortunately, opportunities to find work or up their career in their home country. And so they decide to come to Japan as a way to create a new life for themselves. As with a lot of Americans, Canadians, people from English speaking countries, I guess they don't really face that many challenges when it comes to creating a life of their own in their own country. And so you don't really see many people uprooting their entire life to move to Japan and spend 2 whole years, studying a whole new language, right? It's not
Right.
necessary, if that makes sense. So unfortunately, we don't really see many people from English speaking countries. There are a couple of schools that specialize in recruiting people from English speaking countries, but I think most Japanese schools are focusing on people from like Central Asia or other countries as well.
It's like proximity, right? It's also like
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think a lot of
yeah,
people view Japan as there's a lot of opportunities for work in terms of businesses. It's kind of a very big hub, obviously, in Asia. So there's,
right.
especially in Tokyo, there's a
Mhm.
lot of opportunity there if you can find it.
Yeah,
And when I think of like Japanese language schools, I think of kind of something like that where you're going there with the intent of progressing or moving. You're not going there just to learn the language for fun. You're going there because you want to make it a lifestyle that
like
you want to apply to a career.
right, exactly. Yes. That's what's really cool because another part of your question was beginners or intermediate or advanced people. A lot of the students you find that come to Japanese language schools, they are in fact beginners.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they have like absolutely no experience with the Japanese language. And it's so interesting to see just how fast their Japanese improves within like a year or like a year and a half. I had this one student, actually, they had many cases like this, but I had this one student, he was from Uzbekistan, and he came in first day. He absolutely spoke no Japanese whatsoever, and we were kind of fumbling through Google Translate trying to have a decent conversation. Very, very, very difficult. Yeah, he didn't speak a lick of Japanese, maybe like konnichiwa, and
Mhm.
that was it. And a year and maybe 3, 4 months later, he's having full on conversations in Japanese with me.
Wow.
Great.
And it's just amazing to see the growth and just how much focus and like hard work the students put into their Japanese studies. So we do have a lot of beginners that come. We also have some people that are in the intermediate and advanced level, of course, as well, but mainly beginners come and then you just kind of see their Japanese like skyrocket, which will allow them to, further their life in Japan.
My question then was, do you use English as kind of a bridge when you can't communicate in Japanese, or is that also a barrier too?
Oh, yeah, because you said that y'all teach it in Japanese.
Right.
Right.
So everything
Oh.
is in Japanese. So the point is to get you fully immersed. It's kind of like
Yeah.
a speed run boot camp. kind of intense. And so the point of all that is to, just get immersed in the language. So everything is in Japanese. I try my best to speak Japanese to even people who are from English speaking countries as well. And yeah, the common language within the school is Japanese. So we're
Awesome.
speaking Japanese as much as possible.
Great.
No English.
No English, no.
But that brings me to another question. We kind of touched on how fast you can learn Japanese from a Japanese language school versus a university course. And earlier we discussed, how the classes are pretty intense. It's 3 hours. That's the only class you're taking. Do you think there's more that affects that besides just like the length of the class and the dedication to the class?
Well, yeah, I think it really just boils down to the student and their motivation to studying the language. I really think because we do have a couple of students here and there that are kind of just doing it for fun and they're not really like into like studying and stuff. So unfortunately, you won't really see much progress in their Japanese. But then a lot of the students, you see them after classes and they're in the library and they have their books open and they're like writing things down in kanji and like reading stories and stuff. And so like they're like doing intensive studies and stuff. And so I really think it just boils down to the motivation of the student and how far they want to take their studies.
Do you have students who drop often?
Like drop to school or drop
Oh,
out.
yeah. That's so normal to drop out.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, we have students who, they come to Japan and they're like, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I want to go home.
Oh.
So, yeah, we have students like that. We also have students where, for example, they come to Japan, they love it at first, but then along the road, they find difficulties within the culture that don't really match up with their own. And they decide, hey, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go home. So, yeah,
Okay.
it's not static. We do have, a lot of students who come in and come out.
So, and this is maybe because I'm not aware. I went the study abroad route where they offered assistance with dormitories or where you stay or shared space where you can go study, like a library or a cafeteria and things like that. Does the language school offer similar like housing assistance, like not necessarily helping you pay for it, but helping you find housing? And do they have those like shared learning spaces, like study rooms and libraries and things like that, where you can all sit in an area quietly, but focused, but in the kind of environment that is conducive to learning and study?
Yeah, it does depend on the language school, the size and whatnot. But I do believe most language schools have a communal study area where it's very quiet, maybe even like a library type study area. That's the kind of area we have at our school. We have a library with a bunch of books and the students go down there to study the language, intensely and get focused. Dormitory wise, yeah, that also really depends on the school.
Renting in apartments as a foreigner in Tokyo, a lot of people have heard
Yes.
stories about just you gotta really look, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of barriers that are in place to even rent. So I didn't know if maybe there's some kind of assistance that, as a sponsor or a guarantor or something like that, that schools may do, or
Right.
just like you said, dormitory where you say, hey, you can stay here.
So some of the bigger elite schools, they do have dormitories at their school. And some of the smaller ones like us, we unfortunately don't have any dormitories. So what we do is we partner with different real estate companies and we introduce them to our incoming students. And since it's more of a personal matter, we kind of just let the students search for dormitories on their own through our introduction.
Okay.
The real estate company would kind of handle the rest with the student, and yeah, that's how most of our students find their places.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, it's like kind of a warm handoff. It's not just like, hey, yep, go find your own stuff. It's more of like, we trust this real estate company that's used to helping foreigners coming into Japan find housing. So it kind of,
Right.
yeah, I can see that. Okay.
Yeah, it's mainly done in English as well. So the service is provided by the real estate company, and like if the Japanese language school has an English speaking staff there, they'll probably be in contact with the student in English as well. So
Okay. But what are some of the other challenges that, students face when learning Japanese at these schools, and how do these schools help them overcome those challenges and those obstacles?
yeah, one of the main challenges, obviously, we're gonna knock it out of the park, is kanji. Kanji, 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 your best friend and your worst enemy. But I do believe the kanji study at Japanese language schools is very interesting because it can be fast paced, but at our school, for example, we do weekly kanji tests and we practice writing kanji every single day. And I think it's little blocks of intensive study time like that that will help you get better at kanji way faster than you would at a university, especially since you're interacting with Japanese every single day. Your brain is a sponge and it just soaks up information like through repetition and whatnot. And so
Yeah.
since you're prone to seeing kanji literally every single day, everywhere you go. And so it's not just the Japanese language schools that help out, but the environment as well, obviously, I think helps out as well. And so for example, when I was studying Japanese at a university, I kind of had to create a mini Japan around me. There wasn't much kanji, obviously, and I didn't have many, I had a couple Japanese friends here and there. Very fortunate to be able to speak with them. But my kanji progress was very, very slow because I wasn't reading much and I wasn't
Yeah.
like interacting with kanji as much. But then I came to Japan and that's just when everything it's like a complete 180. I found myself having to practice kanji by myself every single day at university. But the thing I find with Japanese language schools is that they help out with kanji in a way that's much more on hands, I guess. It's not up to you. It's kind of up to them to help you with kanji. And so, of course, you're there practicing at home from time to time. But I think a lot of the times the teacher will help you out with stroke order or the history of the kanji and whatnot. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's much more hands-on at a Japanese language school than it is in universities, I think personally.
And before, you said that y'all do sometimes get like intermediate and advanced students. For those students who already have like that upper Japanese level, if they go to a language school, how does the language school help them take their skills to the next level?
We do have intermediate and advanced students come in. Our classes, we have beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And so, for example, if you have a person who's coming in for our long-term courses, we have 1 year and 3 months all the way to up to 2 years. So, for example, if you have an intermediate person who wants to do a 2 year long course and they're already pretty good at Japanese, they would get put into a intermediate class with people around the same level. And that's when we would kind of just smooth out the issues that they have with their Japanese. It's very much more hands-on, more meticulous, I guess, more detailed studying. And so the teachers would correct little like grammar mistakes here and there. And we would just kind of like smooth out the areas that they kind of missed in their early studies. And in terms of advanced studies, or like people who come in with advanced Japanese and they want to do like a long-term 2 year course, they would get put in the very advanced, like the most advanced class. And at this point, it's up to the student, but mainly there isn't really much progress that could be made there since they're already at
Mm-hmm.
the advanced stage. I guess the best thing that they can do is really just like self study at that point and try and ask as many questions as possible to get their Japanese to a level that they find comfortable with.
Okay. You mentioned long-term study. Now, I have a couple friends, and I think we talked about this before. One of my friends from Australia was traveling to Japan for a couple months and was planning on spending 1 month at a language school.
Okay.
Do you guys offer those options as well? Maybe not 1 month. I don't know how long or how short the short-term ones are.
Yeah.
But do you see
Yeah.
a lot of people come in and do like a short-term program?
It's funny you mentioned that, and it kind of relates to the where our students come from question earlier. Yeah, we do have short-term courses, and our short-term courses are from 1 month to 3 months long. And most of the students who come for short-term are people from English-speaking countries.
Okay.
They would come to Japan on a holiday for like a month or something, and they're like, hey, I want to dabble in the Japanese language. So I'm going to find a Japanese language school with short-term courses and do a tourist/Japanese cultural like language experience on the side vacation. So they would come here for a month and they would take classes at the Japanese language school for a month. And then they would have all the time for themselves to like go travel as well.
Okay, cool.
And that makes total sense because I know for the US, you can be in Japan for 3 months without a visa.
Yes, yes, it's
Yeah, you're just like on a regular tourist visa, which
insane.
isn't really anything. It's just you go. But yeah, that
Right.
that makes total sense.
So you wouldn't need a visa then, right?
For the short-term classes, you wouldn't need a visa. You would just need like a tourist visa. You could just come as if you were a tourist.
Okay.
But for the long-term courses, yeah, you would need like a student visa.
Got it.
Hmm.
So before we move on to you, because we want to ask you questions, because I know that you are an administrator at a school and you do a lot of stuff on the side. We're going to touch
Yeah.
on that in a second. But one major benefit that comes with learning Japanese in Japan is immersion, right? We've kind of talked about this a little bit. So you mentioned the short-term folks who come in and they kind of make the studying as like the fun academic portion of a fun trip where they get to explore and live it. For a business model of a language school, do you think that's a good pitch to like go and if you want to advertise to younger travelers who maybe are in
Yeah.
between careers or
Mm,
like is this an opportunity to pitch like immersion learning in Japan
mm.
and get it education while having fun at the same time?
Yes, 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 yes. I am kind of in charge of the marketing team at our school as well. And that's exactly what we're doing. So we're trying to pitch it as, I don't know, like a vacation in Japan, but with a twist kind of thing. And so you would you would come here for 2 weeks to a month or however long you would like, up to 3 months. And definitely, yeah, we would advertise it as a little vacation, but you can also study Japanese on the side.
Okay.
And a lot of our incoming students are actually people of various age. We don't have an age limit. And so you find people in their 30s or 40s or 50s who are working and they want to experience Japanese culture while studying the language, even though they haven't studied Japanese before.
Yeah.
They kind of just want to dip their toes in the water and see what it's like. And so we have quite a lot of people who are like that come to our school. And then we also have people who actually live and work in Japan, and they work as an English teacher or they also work at a Japanese company. And they want to take their Japanese to the next level. And so they would come to our school for maybe like a month, maybe 2 months, and yeah, study Japanese as well. So,
All right. Let's shift the focus to Langston here, Langy.
yay. Hi.
You run a very popular Instagram page about learning Japanese. Well, first of all, I want you to give that a shout out in a second. But how has social media really helped you to connect with learners? And what kind of content do you find resonates with most of your audience?
Yes. Thank you so much for asking. So yeah, I do run a social media page on Instagram. It is called The Japanese Guy 101. I took the 101 from college, like college
Yeah.
classes, like
Yeah.
beginner college classes. And I started this account last year
It's only
in
been a year?
January, I believe. Yeah, it's been a
Only a
year.
Oh,
year. Really?
It's been a
wow.
year.
You've done so well.
Thank you. I know it's crazy. Yeah. So I upload short videos on Japanese grammar. I'm a grammar nerd. I love grammar. And I like very simple, easy explanations whenever I'm learning anything. I don't like all the complicated jazz and all that, the fancy technology and I don't know,
Here,
terminology, all that
here.
stuff. It's all just a bit too much for me. And so I decided to take that perspective and apply it to the Japanese language. Why not try out short term content on Instagram since it's very quick, easy to understand, and simple? And so I just started this Instagram account and I decided to start teaching, not really teaching, but kind of like helping out people with their grammar through videos. And I had a short series on the account called Japanese Grammar in Bite-Sized Bits, where I would say, hey, let's look at the particle to. And then I would give a very quick explanation of how it's used. And then I would provide an example sentence for you to get exposure to how it's used in real time. And yeah, I would post a bunch of videos like that. Fortunately, I don't know how, but I blew up somehow. And
Yes,
my
it
followers just
resonated
kind
with
of,
them.
yeah, it resonated with a lot of people, I guess. Very, very, very fortunate, very happy about that.
I think one of the things you do too
Yeah.
is that it's not, I feel like there's a lot of people out there that do language learning content that really target like the very basics, like the kind of low hanging fruit of
Yeah.
education, and especially
Yes.
Japanese education. But I feel like a
Yes.
lot of your content is geared towards those that have kind of gone past that a little bit. And then they're wanting to get into maybe dabble in intermediate grammar points
Hmm.
and different usage of words and phrases. And I really
Ah,
find that is lacking in the language learning world, which is probably, I think, why your stuff
yes.
really had taken off, because it's really beneficial. It kind of gives you some reinforcement of grammar points that
Mm.
maybe aren't used in a lot of these online reels and videos and stuff.
Yes, thank you so much for mentioning that because that is the entire point of my account. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Let's go. Definitely, yes. So I do see a lot of Japanese content out there. I don't know how this happened, but I guess Corona, but all of a sudden blew up. Everyone's like, I'm going to be a Japanese language teacher. And so you have everyone out here teaching Japanese, and it's as you said, they focus on the beginners and beginner level. Nothing wrong with that. But I genuinely want to help people get better at the language in a way that's very easy and addictive, if that makes sense. I want a nice, easy introduction to the language because it could be very overwhelming. Hiragana, katakana, kanji. You got to memorize all this stuff and all these grammar rules and whatnot. And I wanted it to be an account slash community where it's a place where you can just improve your Japanese. And I wanted to make a space where if you're learning Japanese, no matter what level you're at, you can come to my account and you're able to, I don't know, learn something new or maybe brush up on your basics or continue studying where you left off at. And so I tried to encompass the whole Japanese language and not really specifically target a certain group of people on my stories or Instagram posts sometimes. I don't use any furigana, it's called. It's where you have the hiragana on top of the kanji to help
Yeah.
beginners read it. I don't use any furigana. I don't use any romaji at all. We're not using English letters at all. No. It's strictly kanji. I don't know. I try and provide as much natural Japanese as possible because when you come to Japan, there's no romanji everywhere. There's no furigana on top of letters. It's all just kanji and hiragana, which can be overwhelming. But
Oh,
I
yeah.
believe if you get used to it, your brain will eventually be like, hey, I've seen that before. And you'll
Oh yeah, for
slowly
sure.
start to process the language as a whole and get used to it. So yeah, that's the goal of the account to just
Absolutely.
help
And
people
that's great
learn.
because like Doug said, there's so much for beginners and then like for people who are in intermediate, we kind of like face this wall and we're like, how do we get
Yes.
over that wall? And there's
Yeah.
nothing, but there's
There's
you.
nothing.
Well, there
There's
is
me.
something,
I
Jen.
know now there's Langy. Langy can help us.
Thank
One is
you.
Instagram, but
Yeah.
also on top of your
Ah,
Instagram,
yes.
you recently released, and you already had these out for a while, but you've
Yes.
recently released printed versions, updated printed versions of your textbook series. So, can you tell us a little bit about these books and what makes them different from others on the market?
Yes. Ah, we've arrived. Yeah, definitely. I started writing in 2023 of June. And I started writing these books as a way to help the Japanese language learning community. It is a grammar book. I released them on Kindle first in October of 2023. And I just kind of made small updates from there up until now, and I have finally got my hands on a printed version.
All
Yay!
right.
Finally got my hands on a printed version. And I think a very obvious difference, very, very obvious difference, but one of the, I think, very notable difference that I'm proud of that I would like to share is the book cover and the title. It's called the Japanese Language Manual. I like colorful things, and I've designed the book cover by myself to be very eye catching and very, I don't know, friendly, I guess, very warm.
Yeah.
And the title itself, the Japanese Language Manual, whenever you order something, I don't know, such as a desk or chair, it comes with a manual. And a manual's purpose is to help you construct the item. And so I figured I'd use a manual as a way to really say, hey, this is a book. It's not just a guidebook, but it's more like a manual for you to use to construct your way of learning the Japanese language. I think a lot of different textbooks out there, they focus on starting off with polite form, mas, des, and they
Yeah.
really start off with teaching wa, ga, and then the differences between that. And then they rely heavily on translations, like direct translations between, in my case, English and Japanese,
Right.
which is cool. But I found that that can kind of stunt your growth
Oh, yeah, for sure.
because there's so many different small nuances between each grammar point.
Yeah.
And if you directly translate it into your language, you could accidentally use a grammar point in a sentence and think it means one thing when you're really trying to use it as another thing.
Totally done that before.
Right? Yeah, we've all been there, I think.
Why are you looking at me weird?
Stop it. Trying my best. Yeah. So I decided to try and fix that. And one of the things my book offers is right off the bat, it focuses on casual language. I don't do mas des. I start off with da, janai, janakatta, and just very, very, very casual speech.
Yeah.
And it builds off of that. It grows off of that because I figured a lot of the Japanese language learners out there, they're either in maybe middle school, high school, and college. And a lot of the Japanese they'll be interacting with is casual Japanese. Unless you've gotten
Right.
yourself to the level where you're able to work and live in Japan, you're probably not going to be using that much business like desmasu, sumimasen, shirei itashimasu, like
Right.
very formal Japanese.
Right.
And so I figured it would be most effective to start off with the casual part.
I feel like when I started learning Japanese, I didn't learn casual until probably my second, if not third semester of college.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
let me tell you, like when you come to Japan and you're hearing other college kids, at the time I was a college student, right? You're hearing other college kids talk. They're not desmossing anyone,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-mm.
Like they're just like,
Nope.
you can barely understand them. Half the time they're drunk, going crazy.
Right.
But it's not the polite form you learn in a textbook. And I really find that the plain form and the verb form, or whatever they call it officially, the ru verbs and stuff like that, where you just find them in the plain state, I think that's the
Right.
most important stuff you need to learn.
The
Because
most important. Yeah.
yeah, and obviously once you learn that, you can say, oh yeah, you drop this off and you throw moss at the end.
There you go. There you go.
It's so easy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I do think it is. I mean, I get that as a language, and it's especially a language that's built on hierarchy, right?
Hmm. Yes.
There's a reason why the polite form is taught first, because you need
Right.
to be polite. But
Mm.
usage-wise, like practicality, I feel
Mm.
like, okay, we can start with the plain form and then introduce that after, But I agree with that.
Yeah, that's exactly the start of the book. It starts off with the three scripts, hiragana, katakana, kanji, and it talks about the history of them, how they came to be, and then it moves on to the rules of hiragana, katakana, kanji, and then you move from that to grammar. And one of the unique things I think my book does that a lot of books don't really do, I kind of touched on it earlier, a lot of other textbooks and what out there, they rely on direct translation. And my book has you learning Japanese in Japanese. What I mean by that is my explanations, I tried to take each grammar point, isolate it, and say, hey, this is how you use this grammar point. This is not what it translates to in English. This is how you use it in Japanese. I'll give you a couple of examples so that you can see how it's used,
Yeah.
and then you can practice by yourself. So I think my book really offers explanations on the function of each grammar point and how it's used in its natural environment instead of relying on translations and whatnot.
I'm really curious. When I was studying more frequently back when I was on JET, that's kind of what I did for my flashcards when I was studying for JLPT, is I would write the grammar point, but then I would try to explain it in Japanese or trying to find a way. And sometimes I couldn't, with limitations, but I would try to remind myself like, oh, in this situation, do it like this and try to find a roundabout way to explain it. And I found that helpful a lot more than just writing, toste is as,
Yes.
right? Like, because you can use
Yeah.
as like a lot of things or just in a lot of different contexts. But
Yes.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. That's where I was looking at a lot of Japanese textbooks and just Japanese education in general. And it does just that. Toshite is as, or wa is. I hate
right,
that. Why
right.
ga is not is?
Yeah.
And so I found it very beneficial to actually have these, it's almost, I guess, like a history behind each grammar point and how it's used. Not really how it came to be, but how it's used so that you can kind of compartmentalize each grammar point within your mind
Yeah.
and be like, oh yeah, this is how this is used. So I should probably use it if I want to say this in Japanese. So that's the main, I guess, point of my book. And I also I provide like Japanese example sentences, and below I provide the English translation. But the English translation is meant to reflect the Japanese. And so it's very crude, broken up, not correct English. But I did that on purpose
Right.
because if you add all these extra ornaments in the English translation, such as the,
Yeah.
pronouns, is, that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
you might get confused because I don't really have those in Japanese. And so I figured our brain is a wonderful thing. If you are native in English and it's broken up, you're probably going to have at least like a 99%
You
chance
can piece it
of
together. Yeah.
understanding the
Oh, yeah, for
sentence.
sure.
Don't quote me on that. I'm not a scientist or anything. But yeah, you could piece it together and your brain will do the rest. So I really wanted to focus on learning Japanese in Japanese with a Japanese mindset. So you'll have the explanations of each grammar point, and then you'll have the Japanese example sentences, and below that you have a very crude, broken up version of the English translation to reflect the Japanese, so that you can get used to thinking in Japanese, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. So before we wrap up, getting started when studying Japanese is hard. If you could think of one piece of advice to give someone that is wanting to start Japanese but doesn't know where to begin, what piece of advice would you give a listener to just
I
get started?
I think it's about the mindset, really. Japanese is a very, very, very difficult language, and it's going to take a lot of time for you to get to a proficient level.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think you should try and treat yourself very nice when studying the language. Try not to beat yourself up when studying the language because it's very, very different from at least English, I think.
Yeah.
But for beginners who have absolutely like no idea what they're doing and like what is this kind of thing, obviously there's the internet and there's like lots of tons of online resources and whatnot. And there's going to be lots of videos out there that are saying, hey, you can do this to study and do that to study and do this to study. But I think one of the main things that really helped me when I studied is to simply just have fun, to
Yeah.
simply enjoy yourself and have fun while studying. And fun can look different depending on the person. It may be you consuming media such as Japanese movies or anime or manga or novels, who knows what it is, talking with Japanese people. But as long as you're having fun throughout the entire process, that could take some of the difficulties and like stress or I don't know, just pressure off your shoulders
Yeah.
when studying the language. So it can be difficult, but I think it's important to find a way that is specific to you so that you can have fun while studying Japanese.
Awesome. That's great advice. As long as you're enjoying it, I mean, that keeps the train running, right? Like stay on
Yeah,
track.
keeps the motivation there.
We got to the end. We got through everything. But
Yay!
before we let you go, because I know it's your day starting, ours is it's nighttime, dinner time,
Ending, huh?
bedtime.
Yeah.
I wanted to give you a chance again, just to let everyone know where they can find you on social media, the names of your books. And again, we'll put the links out to your social media and your books in our show notes so that way
Cool.
people can
Yeah.
find that. But if you want to just let people know like your
Yeah.
social media accounts and your book title.
Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing the shout out and stuff. Yeah.
No, you're good, man.
My Instagram account is called The Japanese Guy 101, and it has a pink icon, so it's very easy to spot. You can follow me there. I also have a Twitter and YouTube under the same name, but they are not active at all. I'm mainly on Instagram. And my book is called The Japanese Language Manual, and it is out on Amazon and Amazon only. So if you search up The Japanese Language Manual on Amazon, it will pop up, and it'll pop up and it'll be the first one. Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram if you want to learn Japanese, or if you would like to support me and support yourself in your language learning studies. I really definitely think you should check out my book as well.
Yeah, content is on the Instagram.
Yeah.
We'll put all those links in our show notes so that way our listeners can go follow you.
Yeah, I 100% recommend following him on Instagram. If that's the least you do, follow Langy on Instagram.
Thank you.
At least because his content is great and very entertaining too.
Yes.
Yeah. No, and like I said, I'm gonna check out your book, man. I know it's on. You said it's on Kindle, right? So I can go.
Yes.
I like to get paperback books, but I'm running out of bookshelf space, so I need to.
No, right?
I need to start consolidating what
Of course,
where I'm gonna put things. But yeah, thank you again so much for joining us today, and we had a lot of fun. A lot of fun talking with you about it. And I hope a lot of our listeners like that maybe are thinking about doing a longer trip to Japan. And if they're going to be there for a month or so, think about language school, in Japan. Or maybe they're planning on moving there and for a job for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And they want to do language school in the evening, after work or something like that.
I hope so too. Yeah, no, I mean, Japan in general will absolutely change your life. So if you're thinking to come here, whether it be study abroad, work, or just like as a tourist, if you have the finances and the time, I really recommend checking out this country. It's beautiful. It's amazing. And I think you're going to have a life-changing, wonderful experience. So yeah, definitely come on down.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much. We had a lot of fun.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I had a lot of fun too.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the Krewe of Japan podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. A huge shout out and domo arigato to Langston Hill for joining us today, dropping some wisdom, laughs, and probably convincing a few of you to pack your bags and enroll in a Tokyo or non-Tokyo based language school next semester, or maybe next year. That's the beauty of language schools. You really have the flexibility to pick out the best fit for you and your learning goals. Whether you're team immersive language school, traditional classroom, or I learned Japanese from anime subtitles, we hope you have learned something new today and had some fun along the way. We talked about the benefits of studying at a Japanese language school, how it stacks up against universities and high schools in your own country and in Japan, the unique opportunities a language school can provide you, and of course some of Langston's awesome content from his social media to his textbook series that's helping people around the world level up their Japanese game. So go give Langston a follow, grab one of his textbooks, and at least drop a like on one of his videos, if not more. Trust us, your Japanese will thank you later. We'll have all of his socials and links to his textbooks linked out in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode or any of our past episodes, don't forget to follow, rate, and review our show. Every single one of those 5-star ratings and reviews helps others discover Krewe of Japan and join our global crew. And you know what? Maybe you just let a friend know about us. That's cool too. We like it. Any and all support is greatly appreciated. But have you ever attended a Japanese language school? Share your experiences with us on social media. Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, X. Just search Krewe of Japan Podcast to stay in the loop for all of our future episodes, upcoming Japan Society events, and Japan-related content. That's KREWEOFJAPAN, Krewe of Japan. Or maybe you prefer contacting through email and reaching out directly. Send us an email at kreweofjapanpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. But that's it for today. Until next time. Looking to start your own podcast and don't know what platform to use? Tell me about it. When we started the Krewe of Japan podcast, we tried a bunch of the big name recording platforms, but always came back to the one we're still currently using to this day, Zencastr. Zencastr is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. In addition to its high audio and video quality for podcast production, Zencastr provides a full suite of production tools to record, produce, and publish studio quality content from the comfort of your home. Just log in through your browser and start recording. It's that simple. For us, we simply send out links to our guests and they join the lobby. But before you know it, it's all done and you have your studio quality audio and up to 4K video right there ready for you right when you finish. The best part is having their multi-layered backups to ensure that your recordings are in the highest quality, regardless of anyone's internet connection stability. With Zencastr's all-in-one podcasting platform, you can create your podcasts in one place and distribute to all the major destinations. It's really that easy. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code KREWOFJAPAN, KREWEOFJAPAN, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same easy experiences we do for all of our podcasting and content needs. It's your time to share your story.